I'm Bea,
And I'm Sam.
and we're two best friends who like to talk shit about smut, wingspan.
And sometimes books.
And welcome to our author spotlight, where twice a month we like to sit down to talk about our favourite books.
Completely spoiler free and the perfect way to top up the TBR.
Okay, now we're live again. Oh, sorry, do you want to say? Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
We are live.
Dun, dun, dun. I'll have to get like a little... Dun,
Like a
dun,
cymbal.
Dun. Yeah, like a little xylophone.
At the
Bong,
beginning
bong,
of
bong.
Grease, where she does.
Yeah. So we're back for a new year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
2025.
Wild.
This
Get married
is...
next year.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? I was thinking this the other day.
Wow.
I was like, wow, next year Sam can say I'm getting married next year. Wild.
Yikes.
So we can actually give you a reading update, but maybe next week, main episode, or this comes out on the, what's the first Monday of January? It's like the 5th, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be the Ever King.
Or the 6th. Oh, so on Wednesday's episode, we're going to tell you we have no reading update, but it's because it was actually recorded after this in the world of requests. Very confusing right now.
Christmas has got us all turned around.
Christmas in January has got us all in a pickle, but
Yeah.
what are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading the first book in the Broken Kingdom series by L.J. Andrews.
How far in are you?
Like 2 chapters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not far.
Very new.
I can't think what it's called though. They're all a curse of...
Yeah, I
A
can't remember
Curse
what
of
the
something
first...
and something?
Yeah. I can't remember what the first one's called.
by L.J. Andrews. So it's obviously like the prequel to the Everseas.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm,
So that's what I'm reading at the moment. Have I asked you what you're reading?
No.
Ah, what are you reading?
I've just finished Soulforge, obviously, for today's author spotlight. I'm currently audiobooking book 3 in The Song of the Marked, which I think it's called Call of the Void, the third one. And I am going to read next. I'm going to have to find the name of it. I posted on Instagram about
that
Chiara Foster. Yeah.
I think it's Kiara.
Oh,
I work.
No,
I work with somebody who's got that name, and
it's
she's
Kiara. Okay.
She says Kiara. Is she Spanish?
She's actually American, and she lives in London.
Oh, the woman I work with is Spanish, and
I think she might be like a.
And she pronounces it Kiara.
Okay, so the series is called The Hallowed Fates Duology. I think it is only going to be 2 books, but the first one is called The Kingdom of Blood and Magic, which I finished before Soulforge. Highly recommend. I did an Instagram post about it because I said this on Insta. Like, we read so much in between episodes.
Yeah.
Like, we can't talk about, but I want to talk about everything because, like, particularly when it's indie authors, like, I want to give them the credit because they, you know. So I did a little Insta post about it. And so many of you guys replied, like, adding to TBR, which I love. But I just read the first book. It's absolutely wonderful. It's very much like, I guess, say Amber V. Nicole Gods and Monsters series, but maybe take up the sci-fi-ness. It's more like gods and that kind of like, kind of like, I wouldn't say Greek mythology because it's very much her own world, but that kind of vibe.
Oh, okay.
I will say the tropes, I don't know if they're tropes or if they're like, it's quite dark. Well, not dark, but like very specific spiciness. So I will say, like I said it on the post, but like just make sure you read the trigger warnings because there might be things in there that people, it's not what we see in our typical like romanticities, but I really enjoyed it. If you want a little bit darker spice, so I'm going to read the next one next because the cover of that is wild.
This is the one with the 3-way.
Why choose? And the cover is, I'm never good. That cover is permanently tattooed on my brain. But the second book is called The Blood of Two Crowns. That's what I'm going to read next. Once now I finish Soulforge, I'm going to pick that up. That's what I'm currently reading. I think I'm going to finish this Song of the Marked series on audiobook. Yeah. Because I think there's 2 more after this. And then what I do next, I'm not sure. They did just announce yesterday that Riftborn has gone onto Audible. They've just released the audiobook for Riftborn. If anybody had listened to last week's episode, which was our Reads of the Year, we talk about Riftborn a lot. we fucking love Riftborn.
Very good book.
And I can't wait to hear. I might re-listen to it
Yeah.
just to hear the spicy scenes.
Woo.
So maybe I'll do that next as well. But yeah, that's what I'm currently reading.
I've been seeing a lot. I'm gonna get the name wrong now. Is it like The Road of Bones?
Is the cover kind of like like red, and it's almost like
No, it's blue.
navy, and it's got like a
Yeah.
red person on the front in like
Yeah.
a hood. Yeah,
I think it's like a witchy book.
I think they're like 5 of them. I think that's like the
Ooh.
second,
No, I think that's the first.
or maybe the first one is. I think there's one before. Maybe it's like a novella.
Okay.
I've seen that a lot, but I don't know. But I don't think it's. Not there's anything wrong, but I don't think it's spicy. I think it might be YA. I don't know why I think that.
Oh, I can't. I've just seen it loads lately.
Yeah, I
but
have.
my TBR. I think I need to have a cull of my TBR.
I did the other
and
day.
look at things like that. That I'm like, do you know what? I'm not going to read that, and I know I'm not going to read.
I had a cull of mine the other day because there was loads of stuff in there that like I was like, I need to.
My everything TBR on Goodreads is now like 180 books.
Yeah, mine's
like,
ridiculous.
I don't have time for that.
Well, not if you keep adding. No.
Yeah. Well, and books keep releasing. Like
I know.
it's only, 2 weeks now until Onyx Storm
No, it's more than that.
when this episode.
Oh, yeah, when this comes out. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
like
yeah. Yes.
and we've got so many like anticipated releases this year that
I know it's difficult to keep up in it.
it is. Anyway,
We digress.
Author
Author
Spotlight.
Spotlight. I was very in sync.
we're such a hive mind. I love it.
So January, for both our Author Spotlights, it's Welsh National Welsh Month with Author Spotlights.
Woo!
This just happened by chance because
Yeah.
we put these into a randomizer. So like,
Yeah, we had no say in
No.
when we were doing these episodes.
No.
Everything was
Yeah.
chosen for us.
So today's episode, which is Georgia May's book Soulforge, I believe she is Welsh. If you listen to this, Georgia, and you're not, please correct me, but I'm like 99.999% certain she's Welsh. And your book at the end of January, which is by Llynwyr Geiriau?
Lluniwr
Lluniwr Geiriau,
Yeah.
who is also Welsh.
Yes.
Like not to be like biased,
Yeah.
but we are very excited about these.
Yeah. Very,
Because
very
we just
excited.
love like we don't really see there. Of course, there's Welsh romantasy and fantasy romance authors out there. Of course, there is, but it's just really nice to know that like we're supporting
Yeah.
local, which we love.
Shop local.
So, shall we get into Soulforge?
We should.
So, Soulforge is the first book in the Shadowed Crown series. As of right now, we don't know how many books the series is going to be. I have seen on social media that Georgia is in the process of writing book 2, so we certainly know it's not a standalone.
Yeah.
Like we know from the way the book ends, it's not a standalone. But how many it's going to be is still like up in the air. But it definitely is going to be a series. So this is available on Kindle Unlimited, which is
Lovely.
wonderful. At the moment on Amazon, only the hardback is available, which is $19.99. I do believe Georgia has paperbacks available, but I think you've got to buy them directly from her.
Okay.
What I will say is, for those of you who are listening in the US, I believe Georgia actually has some special edition sprayed edges that you can purchase, but I think it's from a US store.
Okay.
I was just trying to find the link, but I can't seem to find it. I did just see on Georgia's website that actually she posted about book 2. I am just gonna does it have a title for book 2?
Woo!
Let me just go get it. Yep. So at the moment we've just got 2025 for book 2, and it's called Requiem.
Ooh.
Cover to be confirmed.
Ooh.
But that is very exciting. I'm just going to double check the website. Salient Books. Yeah, so if you go on her website, for anyone who's looking internationally, she sells her books like for the US on Salient Books, but the links are all on her website.
Stunning.
Oh, they do. Sorry, there is a sprayed edge edition. I thought there was. It's on her website. Go have a look. So, shall we read the blurb of this?
Yes, please.
Not a very big one, but
Okay.
still a blurb nonetheless. When the world becomes dark, can you be the light? Eldergild is the next in line for the throne, betrothed to a monster that wants her crown, and a pawn for a father who is king first, family second. Doomed to a short, painful life at the hands of the ambitious Lord Ridian Hawthorne, all seems lost. When the Soul Forge steps into Elder's path, everything changes. The spirits have claimed her as their champion, but her new mentor is hiding a dark secret and even a darker past. Will Elder have the strength to fix a broken soul, or will Valeris burn? And I'm just going to quickly read Georgia's bio. Georgia's not Welsh. I think she lives in Wales. I think she is Welsh. I just don't think she was born there. I'm 99.9% certain she's Welsh. I don't know why did I think that. I'm sure she's Welsh, guys.
Are you thinking of Gemma Preston?
No, I know who that is. I'm sure Georgia's Welsh. Oh, Georgia, if you're not, I'm really sorry. But I thought you were. But it says here she was born in Leeds, UK.
So she's not Welsh, hun.
Georgia May was born in Leeds, UK, and lives with her husband, young daughter, and their 2 cats, Pancake and Sooty. She began writing in 2001 after discovering a love for storytelling at a young age. She went on to achieve a Bachelor of Arts degree in creative writing at Huddersfield University, and now spends her free time building new worlds. Georgia's debut novel, Soul Forge, is an epic dark fantasy romance and a testament to her love of all things magical and mythical. Sorry, and also I didn't note, if you're not on Kindle Unlimited, this Kindle version is $3.99 to purchase, so really reasonable. So Soul Forge, this is gonna, do you know what, I was thinking about this when I was coming over here. It's gonna be really hard for me to talk about this without spoilers. I'm virtually not gonna be able to give you like more than maybe like the first 2 chapters.
Okay, that's fine.
Because it's, first of all, this book is rolling from the get-go. Like there is no, not that the fluff is a negative thing, but the first third of the book is like bang, 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 bang. Like plot. So Elder is our FMC. She's the princess of a kingdom called Eden.
Yeah.
The world is called, I think you pronounce it, Valeris. So she's the daughter of the king and queen, her dad being the king. And there's other kingdoms that we kind of get introduced to, but hers is quite a big prominent one that's sort of seen as quite like highbrow.
Okay.
Like they're quite proper, maybe is the word to put it.
Yeah.
She's had a very, very sheltered life, but her dad is not kind. Okay. He's not kind to her. He's not kind to her mother. Physically abusive. Not that you don't get scenes like that in the book necessarily, but it's like implied.
Yeah.
To the point where he's so cruel to her mother that he actually like punishes her mother for interfering when he's disciplining her. So her and her mother are a really strained, broken relationship because he purposefully kind of like victimizes everyone, like manipulates everyone to be kept apart.
Yeah.
So she's had quite a lonely upbringing as well. She has everything in terms of like luxury and stuff, but like her dad's really controlling about what she reads, what she consumes is very like limited. Her education is not like limited in a way that she's not educated, but just like she's only given certain things to learn. So her knowledge of the world is like not very worldly. She's never left her kingdom. Like he doesn't let her go visit other kingdoms. Like it's very controlling. She does rebel in her own little ways, and one of the things she does, which is like the opening chapter, is she sneaks out of her room. She buys like lockpicks, she buys sleeping powders for the guards, and she sneaks out of her room just to go like run in the woods and just exist. Aww. She has like a bow and she'll go like hunt things, but you learn in the first chapter that the kingdom is being attacked, like a constant attack by these demons, and there's an evil lord that their kingdom borders Eden that is the one creating and controlling these demons, and unfortunately they spill over into the border, and even though they have like guards and stuff, they still attack people. So in the first chapter she gets attacked by a demon in the woods. Her father's army, the captain of the army, is something called a Valkyrie, but it's slightly different to maybe Valkyrie that we've had previously in other worlds. They ride like it's literally called a Pegasus, so like winged horses.
Oh, okay, like Valkyrie then from like Avengers.
Yeah, that
like
kind
a Marvel
of thing.
Valkyrie.
Yeah, like a Norse mythology Valkyrie. So she's the captain of the guards. She's kind of Elder's only like friend, I guess is the way to put it. But I wouldn't even say friend. She's just sort of like the only person that's nice to her. She looks out for Elder and always has done. So the first scene, she gets attacked by this demon. a captain comes to save her and kind of gives her a grilling, like, you've got to stop doing this. Her dad finds out that she's done it again, goes mental, and actually punishes the guard that she put a sleeping potion on in front of her, because he knows that will, like, break her, seeing somebody else be harmed for what she's done. All of his staff, anyone that works for the kingdom, is made to swear, like, an oath via, like, a rune, like a magical rune on their skin, loyalty kind of oath. And if they break it, it, like, burns them alive, basically. And this man, he's like, I'm going to break your loyalty rune in front of you, in front of Elder as well, and it literally, like, burns him alive. So she's having a rough start. He then says to her, like, you need to go get yourself cleaned up and dressed, stop crying, because we've got a ball to attend tonight, because she's having to pick a suitor to marry. So her dad's been getting into court all these different, like, kings and princes from around different kingdoms and around the realm, and she's got to pick. Ultimately, it's her choice, but her dad is so controlling that he's kind of been influencing her and telling her, like, you need to pick this person because we need their political alliance, basically. There's been like 8 or 9 different men that have come and gone for her to choose from, but basically the choice has already been made. Her dad has told her, you need to pick this evil, like, well, Lord, I think you pronounce it Hawthorne, which is said in the beginning, who, there is magic in this world, and he's a shifter, so he can shift into kind of like a lion-y beast type chimera thing. But he is vile, like, horrible. It's known that he's had 2 or 3 previous wives that have all died in mysterious circumstances. He's known for being, like, really abusive, really harmful. Like, she does not want to marry him, but her dad says, like, he's the only one that's going to stop this evil lord. His army's the only one big enough to stop this evil lord, like, coming in and attacking us. Also to note that Elder is an elf.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You wouldn't want to miss the Sights and Sounds podcast, would you? I didn't think so. Tune in with Alan Kiger.
She's not human. It doesn't really in the beginning it doesn't really, like, indicate that, like, she has any magic naturally, but she's just an elf, just to put it out there. So they're at her, like, proposal ceremony where she's going to choose, and she has quite a bit of a panic attack, basically, and needs to, like, step out of the room because she's all becoming a bit much, because she just knows, like, she's going to marry this terrible man and he's going to be awful and abusive and whatever. She goes out into the corridor and he follows her and basically, like, tries to assault her in the corridor.
Lovely. Nice guy.
Her captain of the guard doesn't manage to get to her quick enough, and nobody else follows her, so she's like, oh, she's just going to be assaulted, like, you know. All of a sudden, this, like, dark hooded person just comes out the shadows and threatens this lord and says, like, don't lay a fucking finger on her, get out of here. Alder's like, couldn't see his face, like, don't know who you are, but thank you. The captain runs in and is like, I saw what was happening, like, I got here. She's like, come with me, you need to go choose your suitor, and just says thank you to this hooded figure. But she says the captain of her guard is a very suspicious person, so the fact that she just, like, saw this hooded man in the shadows and just said, oh, thanks, and wasn't suspicious is a bit, like, weird. As she's just about to announce who she's going to choose, this person walks in, and this person is called the Soul Forge. In their world, they've always had previous issues with demons invading. There's this savior, he's like the whole world savior, called the Soul Forge, and he's like this being, no one really knows what he is, and he disappears and he goes off to fight their battles. He's like this otherworldly being that comes in and saves them, and is like a I don't know if a creature is a word, but yeah, he's just like this, not a god, but like this thing that comes in and, like, saves them, and he can like super deadly, like, kills, like, fights. He has big, massive feathered black wings, and on all, you know, yeah, I know, and on all the, like, stained glasses in the palace, he's, like, depicted because he's like this savior. He's the world savior. In walks the Soul Forge, and everyone's like, what the fuck is the Soul Forge doing here? Like,
gasp,
why? And he says, sorry, Elder can't get married because she's just been chosen as the next wielder. So what that means is, like, every so many centuries, the gods, through the Soul Forge is kind of like the on-earth vessel for the gods, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like does their bidding.
Yeah.
Every so many centuries, they choose a wielder. So they choose somebody from one of the kingdoms. Doesn't have to be a human. It can be like fae, it can be elf, it can be whatever. But somebody that's kind of like a normal person gets chosen by one of the gods. The gods pick them, send the Soul Forge to go collect them, and they basically form a connection with the wielder so they can like harness their power. And the idea is they then their life is like immortal, and their purpose is to like serve the kingdom and save them from demons. So there's been other wielders up until now. They don't stop being wielders, but you just get a new one every so many centuries. So there's like, I think they say there's been 6 up until recent. And he comes to announce that Elda's been chosen as the next wielder. But she's like, I can't fight. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, she's not useless, but like, she can't really do much, you know? She's like, why the fuck have I been chosen? He's like, it's not for me to say. One of the gods has told me, you'll find out soon enough, you're the next wielder. And her dad is like, well, she can't be because she's supposed to be getting married. So no.
Brave, defying the gods.
Well, defying Soul Forge as well, because he's a big, scary shadow daddy. And he basically says, well, I'll let her, because they can't say no to her being a wielder, but he says she needs to get married first. So let's get her married to who she was going to choose, then she can go be Soul Forge. But he starts to clock on Soul Forgers, whose name is Cypher. That's his name. Soul Forge is like his title. Okay. He's like, who's she going to marry? And he's like, oh, Lord, whatever. And he's like, he's such a bad person, like, not good. So they go back and forth arguing because her dad's really controlling. In the end, he's like, fine, she needs to go be a wielder like right now, so I'll just fucking marry her. And she's like, what? And he's like, well, you haven't chosen, I'll put myself in as a contender. And the dad's like, well, no, she's supposed to be marrying so-and-so. And he's like, well, I can put my name in. So she gets time to go think about it. She comes back and she chooses Soul Forge. I think it comes as no shocker that he was the one that saved her in the corridor as well. That's kind of assumed. So kind of from here on out, I can't say anything else. This is pretty much like 2 chapters. So she goes with Soul Forge and the captain of the guards to go start training to become a wielder. There's so much more that happens. The way it's written, right, the things you discover are not necessarily plot twists, as in like it's really ambiguous, tension, and then you get a big release. But the way Georgia writes like lore into her story, you're literally just getting like, oh, here's another biscuit, do you know what I mean? Like every chapter you get like a bit of information that you're like, fucking hell, I didn't even see that come in. Like it's not like a plot twist, I guess, but it's just where you go from the first 2 chapters to where you end up is just wild. Like I just can't, it's really hard to talk about this book because I just feel like there's a lot of spoilers. I have some quotes as well. I actually highlighted quite a bit in this book. I've only got one I'm going to read out, but there was so many enjoyable quotes in this as well. You do get, like, without spoiling, you kind of end up having sort of 2 MMCs in a way. I can't really go into too much. But you then get, like, the way Elder interacts between one and the other. Like, because Cypher's very cold. He gives me big Rowan Whitethorn vibes, if that helps. He's quite like reserved, doesn't really give a much. Yeah. Whereas the other kind of MMC, who does have a name, but I'm not gonna spoil it, it's really like snappy and sassy. Okay. So it's really interesting to see like the 2 sides of it. Also, Cypher, right? Like he's really broody, doesn't like anyone. Like Elder's there to like soften his icy heart. And he says to her all the time, if you can get me to do this or do that or these little things, I'll get you a bunch of flowers. I'll do this, I'll do that. She makes like these little bargains with him. And then you kind of forget about them because they're just sort of said in passing. And then like there's this big sort of interaction blowout that happens, and he just disappears. He flies off, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, I thought we were getting somewhere, like whatever. And he just comes back with a bunch of flowers. Aww. And she's like, but you read it like chapters and chapters ago, and you don't remember it. And he's like, I promised. And you're like, and he like doesn't forget. Like, it's honestly, he also has kind of similar to like Kaz Bracker, he doesn't like being touched. He has a lot of like trauma that causes him to not wanting to be physically touched. Right. So you have like that go as well. Like it's just, oh, it's just so like sweet. Like I love them. Like they're just adorable. Yeah, I was just gonna read the one quote that I had because I was like, that's such a good quote. Elder says this is when like he's been waiting for her to leave the castle to go start training to become the wielder, and he's just so grumpy. Stars above, Elder gasped, the cold air stinging her wide eyes. What are you? Because it's the first time she's ever seen his wings. And he says, impatient. Are you done staring? He's so miserable. And then this is the quote I absolutely loved. This is Elder. She says to just some random person when she's saving them, but she says, if you sacrifice your friends to save yourself, you're no better than the monsters you run from. She's very morally good, if that makes sense. And then there's another scene. So they're like back and forth bickering is hilarious. They're like two old people that have known each other for ages and they just like bip at each other. Yeah. So they get attacked by demons at one point, and these demons are like in a burrow in the ground next to a village. Elder gets attacked and gets knocked unconscious. She wakes up and she's like, where's Cypher? And they're like, oh, he's down the hole in the ground killing demons, but she knows he's been injured. And she's like, why the fuck is he doing that? Because like he can't cope either. So she runs over to the hole, stands at the end of this big demon pit, all the village watching, like all the people that know him, and just says, Cypher Guild, she yelled, get your ass out here before I come down there and drag it out. And then the next chapter, he like flies up and he's like, why are you speaking? Like they're just so like,
I
so
love that.
funny.
I love it when there's like enjoyable dialogue between characters.
They're such that they are the definition of grumpy sunshine. She's so like, so sweet and pure and like and good, if that makes sense. What I did like about Elder, because I feel like in the beginning when I first started reading about her, I like, not in a negative way, but did think, oh, is she going to be like the hopeless kind of princess kind? But in a way, it's what I like. Obviously, eventually you have character developments. This isn't necessarily the case for the whole book, but like Elder knows that she's kind of not good at anything, but like she knows that she can't do anything. She knows that she can't fight. She knows she can't ride a horse. She can't do these things. She's not worldly. But for quite a good portion of the book, she doesn't rely on magic to do things. She literally is just so determined. Like every day when they train, she'll be there till like late in the night to train. She still does things wrong. Like one of the ongoing jokes is they say she punches with her thumbtacked, and they keep saying like, if you keep doing that when you hit someone, you're gonna break your thumb. And like you have quite a few chapters of her like doing the same mistake, and she does eventually do it and actually does like break her thumb. It's not like, oh, I've been chosen, all of a sudden I'm super powerful. Like, it's actually a really realistic representation of like,
that's nice.
I really like that. I really enjoyed this book. It was such a delight.
Good, I'm glad.
Shall we
wanna get into questions?
Let's.
Okay, cool. What was your favourite part of this book?
I think my favourite part was that we have 2 MMCs.
Ooh.
I can't go into it too much because it's a spoiler, but like I said to you, you have like basically 2 characters that she's interacted with at different points, and they're really different in terms of personalities, and particularly the kind of other character probably doesn't appear as much as Cypher does, but the interactions are like really sassy, like they're really funny, and I just really enjoyed, you get like a flip. It's not just like, oh, I'm stuck with this one MMC, you know? I really like that.
Did you race to the end, or was it a slow burn?
A bit of both. Like I started reading this, so it's Sunday today. I started reading this like Monday, I think it was, maybe Tuesday. I feel like the beginning I was maybe reading a bit slower just because like of stuff going on and whatever, like life. But it's definitely the type of book that it's really well written in terms like it's very concise. It said like there's not much fluff. It's not particularly overly complicated world building. It's very like neat and tidy. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you can pick it up and put it down and you don't like feel like you're not like getting lost. So I'd say for the first like 2/3 I did, and then the end I was like, by that point you want to race to the end because of like the ending. So it's kind of a bit of both.
Okay.
do you know what? It's the type of book that if you had a good block of time, you could do it in one sitting.
Ooh.
It's just that right size, not too short but not too long. I reckon it's probably like if I just sat and put my mind to it and had like a big block, like a day, you could probably do it in about 5 hours. I'd say 4 or 5 hours.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which scene has stuck with you the most?
It's really hard to describe it because like basically they go at one point, their whole sort of mission is they're trying to get to meet the previous wielders. Well, I can't say why, but they're trying to get there. So they eventually do get to one of the previous wielders. And when they get there, another wielder is there, which they didn't expect her to be. And she has some history with our MMC. And like the interaction you get between them is like really hostile, but then it's not funny as in like the background story is actually really sad, what happens between them. But the like, Cypher absolutely hates her, this other wielder called Lillian. And like the way he speaks to her is so funny. Like he's the definition of like, he's so rude, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
He literally is just like, I never want to fucking see you again, and flies off. Like he just looks at her. Everyone's like introducing her. She's like, hi, I'm Lillian. And he's like, I never want to fucking see you again, and leaves. He has every right to be like that when you kind of learn about what happened.
Yeah.
But like, it's just really funny. And then there's quite a bit of interaction you get with Lillian and like their kind of group that they're traveling with, and everyone just fucking hates her. And it's really funny. I'd say that's my favourite bit.
Okay. Would you want to read another book by this author?
Yeah, 100%. 100% reading book 2, without a doubt. I would definitely read more by her.
What surprised you most about this book?
Oh, I think when you read the first few chapters, as like people who read this genre so much, we do tend to like assume, don't we?
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but I'd read a few chapters and I was like, right, I know what this, like I've got this book sussed. And then actually as you read on, you're like, this is nothing like the basic premise, I guess, is like it's a forced proximity marriage of convenience. He's her trainer, she's the pupil. But outside of that, like the lore and their kind of motives and why they're doing what they're doing really changes, and it really surprised me. There was a lot more like, do you know what? There was a lot more subplot, I guess.
Okay.
So there's like, you have your main plot, and I just kind of thought, well, this is our plot. There's a lot more like intricate side plots that like weave in that you just have no, like until you get there, you almost like can't anticipate them. But they definitely make sense. They don't feel like, oh, that feels a bit like came out of left field, I guess.
How did your opinion of this book change as you read it?
Well, I definitely didn't expect to have like 2 MMCs, basically. Yeah. I really didn't. Like, you don't get any inkling of that in the first few chapters because you're just like, Cypher, that's who it is. That really surprised me that it was that kind of like dynamic. I wouldn't say it's a love triangle. I don't feel like it's that. I don't even know if you could say why choose. It's quite a complicated one. I can't say too much without spoiling it. But yeah, I really didn't expect it. I just felt like it was going to be Alder and Cypher. That's who it is. But actually this third character, who I can't talk about, really kind of like mixes the pot.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does this book's title work in relation to the book's content?
So, I feel like I can't really. Yeah. Soulforge.
Okay. Did this book remind you of any others?
Yeah, what did I say it reminded me of earlier? I said something and I can't remember what I said. Oh, like Amber V. Nicole Gods and Monsters. Yeah. It definitely gives that. I will say, like, Amber's books are big, aren't they?
Yeah.
Big books. It definitely, like, it's definitely got world building. I would not say it's simple at all, but I wouldn't say it's maybe, like, quite as big as, like, Gods and Monsters, but maybe like maybe that's just because Gods and Monsters is 3 books. Maybe if it 3 books this, it would be the same. As of right now, obviously it's just 1 book, but I wouldn't say there's no sci-fi element to it. But if you were to take the whole like gods and like humans and other beings, and how like Amber really uses a lot of different creatures, like very few people are human in if anyone in Amber's world. That's very much like this, and the way the kind of gods interact with humans or people on quote unquote Earth, but it's not Earth, is very similar. I will say a lot of like the demon kind of ness reminds me of, you know, like the first book in From Blood and Ash. Like, you know, you've got the, I can't remember what they're called, but like the shades, no, they're like things that come out of the woods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that vibe as well. So I'd say maybe like book one of From Blood and Ash in terms of like the demons, and then I'd say like Gods and Monsters, Amber V. Nicole is the best way I can describe it.
Oh, well, they are two great series. So
Yeah. But then it also gives very like princessy kind of like fairy tale vibes as well.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's an absolute lovely read. You know, if you just want like, I wouldn't say a palate cleanser, but you just want something that's like got enough like drama in it. Of course it has, because it's romantasy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it keeps you going. It's like a warm cup of tea.
Ooh,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lovely little read. But also not a standalone, like a series. I
Yeah.
don't know how much she intends it to be. I feel like if I had to guess, it would maybe be like a trilogy,
Okay.
or maybe a duology.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a lovely read. Would highly recommend. This was such a fun one. I absolutely devoured it. I'm really sorry that I assumed you were Welsh, Georgia. I don't know why I did that.